Welcome to Kategos Deep Dive. Today we're exploring a provocative strategic brief. If you are not familiar, Kategos is known as the world's first sovereign AI agency, dedicated to bridging the gap between AI hype and real-world ROI. Based in Nevada, we help consult on AI strategy and help architect integrated sovereign AI systems that allow enterprises to own their intelligence infrastructure, eliminating the risks of third-party dependencies while scaling growth. As an addition, we also specialize in digital transformation services for all sizes and verticals of businesses. Our latest white paper, The Illusion of Mastery, tackles the epistemic crisis of generative AI. We discuss how the enterprise world is suffering from a calculator fallacy, assuming that because AI can generate fluent code or persuasive prose, it possesses actual domain expertise. But while a calculator democratizes accuracy, AI only democratizes plausibility. In this episode, we'll analyze why access is not expertise, the looming seniority vacuum in the workforce, and why the human moat of judgment is the most valuable asset of 2026. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is Sunday, March 1st, 2026. And I want to start today by just taking a breath and looking around at where we are.
Good idea.
Because if you look at the headlines, or more importantly, if you look at the quarterly reports from the Fortune 500, things look, well, they look quiet.
Very quiet.
And I mean that in a good way. We've had a few years now of what everyone is calling the post-hype reality of generative AI.
Right.
The panic is gone. The op-eds about robots coming for your soul, those have mostly stopped.
Thankfully.
The dust has settled. We aren't just playing with chatbots anymore. This infrastructure is running our businesses now.
It is. It's totally woven into the fabric of the enterprise. It's in the plumbing.
Exactly. And if I'm sitting in the C-suite, which is the perspective we're taking for you today, I'm looking at my dashboard and I'm seeing productivity numbers that look fantastic.
Unprecedented, really.
Unprecedented. Output is up. Speed to market is faster. My teams are churning out code, legal briefs, marketing copy, you name it, at a pace that was just physically impossible 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So the prevailing sentiment, and frankly, I feel this myself sometimes, is that we won.
We survived the disruption.
Right. We deployed the tools, we made people faster, we absorbed the shockwave, and it worked. Why are we still wringing our hands?
That is the sentiment. It's a very comfortable, very profitable sentiment right now. It feels like the mission is accomplished.
Right. But you brought something to the table today that suggests this comfort is premature, maybe even dangerous.
Highly dangerous.
We are looking at a confidential strategic macro outlook from the Kategos Intelligence Unit. It's dated December 25th, 2025.
So just a few months ago.
Just a couple months ago. And frankly, I read this thing, and it reads like a horror story for a CEO who thinks they've got AI all figured out. But you're telling me this isn't the usual Terminator doom-mongering, right?
No, absolutely not. It is not a horror story about robots taking over. That's the old sci-fi fear, and frankly, Kategos treats that as a massive distraction. This is a horror story about competence. It's about what happens when an entire economy forgets how to actually do the things it sells.
That is, wow. The report uses some incredibly heavy imagery right on the cover. I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, the visuals are striking.
There's this image of a keyhole, like you're looking through this narrow opening into a vast unknown space.
Right.
And another one of a vortex, this big black and white checkered funnel spiraling down into nothingness. It's pretty dramatic stuff for a B2B business report.
It is dramatic, but the analysts at Kategos argue that the situation warrants it. Those images are absolutely crucial to understanding their thesis.
How so?
Well, the keyhole represents the extremely narrow view we actually have into the black box of how these AI decisions are being made.
We just see the prompt and the result.
Exactly. We see the input, we see the output, but the middle is totally obscure to us. And that vortex, that represents what the researchers are calling the epistemic crisis.
Epistemic crisis. That's a $10 phrase right there.
It is.
It sounds like something from a graduate philosophy seminar, not a board meeting.
It does sound academic. But the concept is actually simple and honestly terrifying for anyone running a P&L.
Break it down for me.
It means we are losing our ability to distinguish between what is true and what just sounds true.
Okay.
The core thesis of this entire document is that the business world has confused access to intelligence with the actual possession of intelligence.
Let's unpack that immediately.
Yeah.
Because to a lot of executives, that sounds like splitting hairs.
It's not.
But hear me out. If I'm an executive
Yeah.
and my junior analyst hands me a strategy report that is brilliant, insightful, perfectly written, does it matter if he wrote it or the AI wrote it?
You're asking if the source matters if the output is good.
Right. The intelligence is there on the page. I have it. I can use it to make a multi-million-dollar decision. I possess it.
You'll possess the
Yes.
output. You do not possess the process that got you there. And that distinction is where the illusion of mastery comes in. The Kategos report argues that we have built our entire adoption strategy, literally billions of dollars of corporate investment, on a fallacy. They call it the calculator analogy.
The calculator analogy, I hear this constantly. I've probably used it on this show.
Most people have.
The pitch goes like this. Don't be a Luddite. The calculator didn't kill math. It just democratized arithmetic.
Right.
It freed us from doing long division by hand so we could do higher level thinking. AI is just a calculator for words. That's the standard defense.
Precisely. It is the most comforting lie in business today. It tells us that we are just upgrading our tools, like moving from a typewriter to a word processor.
But why is it a lie? It sounds perfectly logical. I don't need to know how to calculate a square root by hand to run a successful hedge fund.
True.
Why do I need to know how to write Python code from scratch to build a logistics app? If the tool does it and the tool works, the tool works. Why is Kategos treating this like an existential threat to the enterprise?
This is where we have to get into the weeds of the report, because they identify this not just as a bad comparison, but as a fundamental category error.
A category error.
Yes. To understand why, we have to look at how a calculator works versus how a large language model works. And I don't mean the user interface, I mean the actual nuts and bolts of the plumbing.
Okay, lay it out. I'm the skeptic today, but I'm listening.
Think about the equation 2 plus 2. If you punch that into a calculator, what happens?
You give me 4.
Right. But why does it give you 4?
Because 2 plus 2 is 4. And the calculator knows that.
Not exactly. The calculator doesn't know anything. It is a deterministic tool.
Deterministic.
It operates on strict logical necessity. It has physical or virtual logic gates that ensure that if the input is 2, the operation is addition, and the second input is 2, the result must be 4.
It's hard-coded.
Yes, it cannot be 5, it cannot be 3.9. It is rigidly bound by the laws of mathematics.
Okay, sure. That makes sense.
When you use a calculator, you are outsourcing the labor of calculation, but the truth of the output is guaranteed by the logic of the machine itself. The calculator democratizes accuracy. You don't have to be good at math to get the right answer. You just have to hit the buttons.
Okay, so far so good. Now I turn to my GPT-6 or whatever version we're on this week, and I ask, what is 2 plus 2?
And the AI also says 4.
Right, so where's the difference? The result is exactly the same.
The result is the same, but the process is fundamentally different. And this difference changes everything for a business.
How?
The AI does not say 4 because it performed a calculation. It does not have a logic gate for addition. It says 4 because, in the billions of parameters of text it has ingested, the character 4 is the statistically most likely completion to the sequence of characters 2 plus 2 equals.
Wait, you're saying it's just guessing?
It's predicting. It is a probabilistic engine, not a deterministic one. It's looking at massive, complex patterns. It guarantees that 4 is the plausible answer. It's essentially rolling a very complex set of dice. So while the calculator democratizes accuracy, the Kategos report argues that generative AI democratizes plausibility.
Plausibility, that is a much, much lower bar than truth.
It is a fundamentally different bar, and this is exactly what they mean by epistemic opacity. When you see 4 on a calculator, you know it's true because of the mechanical process.
Right.
When you see an answer from an AI, you are getting a vibe-based approximation of truth. It looks identical to expert analysis, but its relationship to reality is statistical, not logical.
Okay, but hang on. If I ask it, what is 2 plus 2, and it says 4 100% of the time because the statistical probability is so incredibly high, isn't that effectively the same as knowing the truth?
In that narrow instance, it feels the same.
Right. If the probability is 99.99%, why do I, as a CEO, care about the underlying mechanism?
Because of the edge cases. Because business doesn't happen in the simple, predictable world of 2 plus 2. Business happens in the complex, messy, highly ambiguous world.
Fair point.
Let's say you ask your enterprise AI to summarize a complex legal precedent regarding a merger you're considering.
Okay, a very common use case right now.
The AI will give you a summary that looks perfect. It will use the exact right legal jargon. It will cite previous cases. But because it is optimizing for plausibility, it might hallucinate a connection between two laws that sounds totally reasonable to a layperson but doesn't actually exist in jurisprudence.
Oh, man.
Or it might cite a case that is real but was overturned on appeal 5 years later. Why? Because the training data had more instances of the original high-profile case being discussed than the quiet appeal that overturned it.
So a calculator creates accuracy, and AI merely simulates accuracy.
Exactly. It simulates it perfectly. And
Yeah.
for a CEO, those two things look identical on a productivity dashboard until the exact moment they aren't.
Until it blows up.
Until the moment you sign the merger contract based on that summary and find out you're exposed to a massive liability that the AI didn't statistically prioritize.
So if I'm running a business, I'm used to tools that are rigid and reliable.
Mm-hmm.
My Excel spreadsheets don't hallucinate numbers unless I personally messed up the formula.
Right.
But you're saying I'm now building my entire corporate strategy on a tool that is effectively an improvisation engine.
An incredibly sophisticated improvisation engine. That's the perfect way to put it. It's like having an improv comic on staff who has read every book in the Library of Congress.
Right.
They can give you an answer to anything and it will sound amazing, but they are literally making it up as they go along based on what they think you want to hear.
That is deeply unsettling. I want to look at the visuals from the source material again because they really lean into this idea of surface-level perfection. There's an image of crystals.
Yes, these sharp, beautiful, iridescent crystals rising out of a rock formation. It looks like something from a geology textbook.
Why crystals? Is Kategos getting into New Age healing vibes or something?
No, not quite. The report uses that metaphor very intentionally to describe the output of Gen AI. Think about how a crystal forms in nature. It arranges atoms in a perfect, repeating geometric pattern. It looks incredibly designed, right? It looks structured, it looks refined.
Yeah, it looks like it was cut by a jeweler.
But it's just physics. It's just atoms falling into their lowest energy state. It has no intent. It has no understanding of its own beauty or structure.
And in this analogy, the AI output is the crystal.
Exactly. The report calls this syntactic fluency. We have reached a point in 2026 where the machines have perfectly mastered the syntax of human expertise.
The formatting.
Yes. They know exactly how a senior partner at a white shoe law firm structures a sentence. They know the exact rhythm and formatting of a highly optimized C++ code block. They know the precise tone of a sympathetic but professional medical diagnosis.
It sounds right. It has the vibe of being right.
It has the texture of truth. But like a crystal that forms too fast, it can be totally hollow inside. It can be incredibly fragile. The report argues that we constantly mistake that texture for semantic understanding. Just because the machine can arrange the words in the exact shape of a brilliant legal argument doesn't mean it understands the law. It just understands which words tend to hang out together in legal contexts.
And because the deliverables are so polished, we just assume there are solid all the way through. We assume there's a reasoning brain behind the words.
That is the illusion of competence. Because the email is written with the rhetorical sophistication of a senior VP, we assume the 23-year-old analyst who sent it understands the nuance of a senior VP.
But they don't.
They don't. They just wrote a really good prompt for the machine.
Let's play devil's advocate here, though.
Yeah.
I'm the skeptic in the room. I'm the CEO who just wants results for my shareholders.
Go ahead.
If the brief wins the case, or if the code compiles and the app works flawlessly for the end user, does it really matter if the employee understands it? We care about outcomes in business, not the philosophical purity of the process.
The ends justify the means argument.
Exactly. If my junior developer uses an AI agent to write a payment gateway, and the code runs and the customer is happy and my margins go up, why should I care if the developer actually understands the specific cryptographic library the AI chose to use? That has been the defining question of the decade. If it works, it works. And the Kategos report slams the brakes hard on that line of thinking. They point directly to the liability crisis.
Liability, like lawsuits.
Yes, but also operational liability. Imagine that payment gateway code runs perfectly. It worked for 6 months. It's beautiful, fast code. But then an edge case hits.
Okay.
Maybe the transaction volume spikes by 1,000% on Black Friday, or a 0-day security vulnerability is discovered in that specific open source library the AI decided to pull in. The system crashes.
Okay, so we fix it. Systems crash. That happens with human written code all the time.
But who fixes it? You call in the junior developer who supposedly wrote it, but he didn't write it. He prompted it.
He doesn't understand the overarching architecture. He doesn't know why the AI chose that specific library over the 3 other viable options. He has access to the code base, but he has absolutely no expertise in the code base. He is staring at a black box that he supposedly built himself.
So he's looking at the screen, production is down, and he's completely helpless.
He is helpless, so what does he do? He has to ask the AI to fix it.
Oh, man.
But if the AI made the architectural mistake in the first place because of a fundamental statistical misunderstanding of your business context, the AI is just going to hallucinate a patch that might break something even deeper in the system. You are trapped in a doom loop of incompetence.
And they'll apply that to law or medicine. That's even scarier than a payment gateway.
Much scarier. The brief was beautifully persuasive, but it cited a precedent that was slightly misinterpreted. Statistically plausible to the model, but legally disastrous in front of a judge.
And the junior lawyer didn't catch it.
Because the AI sounded so authoritative, and frankly, the junior lawyer has never actually read that specific case law from 1982 because they've been relying on AI summaries since their first year of law school.
Right. They didn't do the reading. They skimmed the summary of the summary.
Exactly. And now you have a massive malpractice suit on your hands. The report explicitly warns of legal liabilities emerging from unmonitored AI agents.
Because the firm is responsible.
You are liable because you, as an executive, confused the appearance of competence with the actual possession of competence. You delegated fiduciary authority to a probability engine.
So we have a workforce right now that looks like absolute superheroes on paper. They are generating content and strategy at a rate that is unbelievable. But you're saying they are actually, what are they?
They are passengers. We are rapidly turning a generation of drivers into passengers. And that leads us to the most structural, systemic danger outlined in the Kategos report. This is the part that genuinely keeps me up at night.
What is it?
They call it the seniority vacuum.
The seniority vacuum. This sounds like a demographic issue, like we're running out of older workers retiring or something.
It's not about age, it's a learning problem. It's about how human beings actually acquire deep expertise in any field. I want to ask you about the early days of your career. Think back to your first big corporate job. Think about the grunt work.
Oh, I remember it vividly. I try to block it out, but I remember.
What did you actually do day to day?
I was a junior analyst. I spent days, literally days, in windowless conference rooms reading thousands of pages of SEC filings just to find one specific obscure clause about revenue recognition for a competitor.
Right.
I wrote drafts of investment memos that got covered in red ink by my managing director and literally thrown back across the desk at me. I debugged massive broken Excel models at 3 a.m. until my eyes bled. It was miserable. I hated almost every second of it.
That was miserable. We all went through it. But the visionary perspective in this Kategos report asks a really important question. What was actually happening to you during all that misery?
I was paying my dues.
When you were hunting for that one broken formula in the spreadsheet or reading the 1,000th page of a dry legal filing, what was your brain doing in the background?
I was suffering. I was wishing I had an AI to just do it for me.
You were suffering, yes. But you were also building tacit knowledge.
Tacit knowledge?
Yes. By reading the 1,000 boring standard cases, your brain learned to subconsciously spot the one interesting anomaly. By debugging the terrible code line by line, you learned how the entire system actually breathes and functions. You learned where the bodies are buried.
I see what you mean.
That struggle of production is the biological mechanism of human learning.
So the friction itself is the learning.
Exactly. The friction is the point. You weren't just fixing a bug or formatting a memo. You were building a robust mental model of your entire industry. You were building professional intuition.
The gut feeling.
Right. Tacit knowledge isn't something you can read in a standard operating procedure manual. It's the gut feeling that says, you know, that marketing copy is grammatically flawless, but I just know it's going to bomb with our core demographic in the Midwest.
Because I've seen 100 campaigns fail before.
Exactly. You only get that intuition by writing 100 bad headlines yourself first and seeing what works.
And the AI removes that struggle entirely. It removes the friction.
It removes the friction completely. You ask for the summary, you instantly get the summary. You ask for the code block, you get the code block. You skip the grunt work.
Which, again, to a CEO sounds phenomenal. I don't want to pay high salaries for young people from Ivy League schools to do grunt work. I want them doing high-level strategy immediately. That's the whole enterprise pitch of AI. Unlock creativity. Banish the drudgery.
But you cannot do high-level strategy if you haven't internalized the boring basics. This is the central paradox Kategos identifies. The report says, and I'm quoting here, if juniors never do the struggle of production, they never develop the critical reasoning required to verify the AI's output.
Whoa. So we are cutting off the bottom rungs of the corporate ladder entirely.
We are removing the ladder entirely. We are creating a hollowed-out generation of professionals. The source material asks a truly chilling question for anyone thinking long-term. Who will be the senior partners in 2035?
Well, the people who are juniors today.
Ju-
The ones currently using GPT-6 to write everything faster than we ever could.
But the juniors today are just prompt engineers. They are getting answers, but they are not building underlying understanding.
They're outsourcing the cognition.
Yes. So when the current generation of senior leaders retires, the ones who learn the hard way, the ones who can look at an AI output today and immediately say, that looks right, but it smells wrong, when they leave the workforce, who replaces them?
We'll have a C-suite full of people who know exactly how to ask the machine for an answer, but have absolutely no idea how to tell if the machine is lying to them.
Exactly. We are accruing massive intellectual debt.
Intellectual debt, like technical debt, but for human brains.
Precisely. And just like financial debt or technical debt, you can run on it for a while. You can look very, very rich while you're racking it up.
Right.
Your corporate productivity numbers look amazing in Q1 and Q2 because you're skipping the costly, slow learning phase. But eventually, the bill comes due.
Wow, this is heavy. It completely flips the standard productivity narrative on its head. We are trading long-term institutional competence for short-term quarter-over-quarter speed.
That is the Kategos macro outlook in a nutshell. They argue we are effectively eating our own seed corn.
So if this is true, we are headed for a massive cliff. But Kategos is a high-end intelligence unit. They don't just point out the cliff, right? They usually suggest a bridge.
They do. They don't just leave us swirling in the despair, the vortex. They actually propose a fundamental solution, or rather a radical shift in how we define work itself.
Yeah, I saw this section towards the middle. They talk about shifting from a mode of production to a mode of verification.
This is the massive pivot. In the old world, pre-2023 really, professional expertise was defined by your ability to produce.
To make the thing.
Right. Can you write the appellate brief? Can you code the software module? Can you draft the quarterly earnings press release? If you could create the asset from scratch, you were considered an expert.
Right. Because human creation was the primary bottleneck in the economy.
Exactly. But in the world of 2026, the machine produces. The machine creates. The marginal cost of content creation has dropped to near zero. So the human role must fundamentally shift to verification.
But wait, isn't checking someone else's work easier than doing it yourself? I mean, teachers grade essays a lot faster than students write them. If my job is just to check the AI's work, isn't my life getting easier?
In a middle school classroom, maybe? But in high-stakes professional enterprise environments, no. The report argues that verification is actually significantly harder than production.
Harder. How did that make sense?
To verify something complex, you need to know more than the original creator. You need to understand not just the what, but the why and the what if.
Give me an example.
If the AI generates a 50-page legal strategy for a hostile takeover, to verify it properly, you need to know the entire corpus of relevant case law to spot what the AI missed.
You have to prove a negative.
Yes. You need to spot the dog that didn't bark. An AI can only give you what is statistically likely based on what it found in its training weights. It cannot tell you what isn't there or what nuanced human context makes a statistically likely answer actually wrong for the specific client.
So you need to be more of an expert to safely manage the AI than you did to just do the job manually in the old days.
Precisely. And this is where that calculator analogy fails the most spectacularly. You don't need to be a math genius to check a calculator's work because the calculator is functionally infallible for basic math. But you do need to be an absolute domain genius to check an AI's work because the AI is merely plausible.
That distinction, checking for truth versus checking for plausibility, that is the whole key to this report.
It is the whole ballgame for the next decade of corporate strategy.
And that brings us to the Kategos platform itself, because the report mentions that Kategos.AI has evolved its own offerings. By 2026, it's not just the standalone research tool anymore. They describe it as an agentic research ecosystem.
Agentic is the key word you need to focus on here. We have moved far beyond chatbots where you type a question and it types an answer back.
Right, that feels ancient now.
We are dealing with agents. These are autonomous systems that can act. They can go out into the network, conduct research, synthesize massive data pools, run predictive financial models, and actually execute a decision on behalf of the company.
Which raises the stakes astronomically. If the agent is acting autonomously, the human better be verifying flawlessly.
Exactly. And that is why Kategos introduced what they call the 4 E's. This is their strategic framework for navigating the 2026 landscape. It's laid out in the research notes section of the source material.
The 4 E's: education, engineering, enforcement, and ethics. Let's walk through these one by one, because if I'm a CEO listening to this, this sounds like my new operational roadmap.
It absolutely should be your roadmap. Let's start with the first E, education. And this is not just sending your marketing staff to a 1-hour prompt engineering 101 webinar on a Friday afternoon.
Which is exactly what most companies are currently doing to check the box.
Right. Here's how to ask the AI for a poem. Here's how to summarize a PDF. No. Kategos argues for a fundamental, ground-up retraining of the enterprise workforce to focus entirely on critical thinking and high-stakes verification.
So what does that look like?
We need to teach people how to actively interrogate a probability engine. We need to teach them to be hostile interrogators of the output, looking for the statistical illusion.
So corporate training moves away from skill acquisition and shifts completely towards skepticism training.
Essentially, yes. You are no longer training writers, you are training editors. You are no longer training accountants to build spreadsheets. You are training auditors to find the lie in the spreadsheet.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's a huge shift, but I get it. Then you have the second E, engineering.
This is the technical backbone required for verification. We need systems that are explicitly designed to be auditable by humans. We cannot just accept these massive black boxes anymore.
We need to see the math.
We need that keyhole on the cover of the report to be pushed open a lot wider. We need to know the specific probabilistic pathways of why the agent made the decision it made.
Explainability has been a massive buzzword in tech for a while now.
But it's no longer just a nice-to-have feature for developers. It is a corporate survival mechanism. If you cannot trace the logic of the agent, you cannot legally or practically verify the outcome.
Okay. Then we get to the third E, enforcement. And this one sounds incredibly aggressive. It really caught my eye when I was prepping for the show.
It is aggressive, and it's likely to be the most politically controversial part of the roadmap inside any organization. Enforcement means automated oversight.
Automated oversight? Meaning, wait, robots watching robots?
Meaning robots watching humans and robots watching other robots.
Wow.
The report argues that if humans are inevitably becoming passengers because of the sheer speed of AI, we need to build automated seatbelts and emergency brakes. Kategos talks about using distinct adversarial AI models to monitor your primary generative AI.
Give me a practical example.
Okay. You deploy automated layers that actively check the primary AI's output for regulatory compliance, factual hallucination, and logical error before a human verifier even sees the draft.
So I'm basically using the machine to police the machine.
You have to. Think about the raw volume. If your engineering team is generating 10,000 lines of code a day using AI assistance, a human QA team physically cannot review that line by line. It's impossible.
Right.
So you need a second adversarial AI whose only job, its only reward function, is to try to break that code and find the vulnerabilities.
So as a CEO, I'm paying software licensing fees for one AI to build the wall as fast as possible, and I'm paying for another AI to try to tear it down.
Exactly. You are operationalizing the red team concept at scale. It's the critical shift from human in the loop, which is too slow, to AI verified, human sanctioned.
That feels like a massive, unprecedented shift in trust. We are trusting the system to police itself.
We are, but the alternative is unpoliced chaos at light speed.
Fair point. And finally, the fourth E, ethics. And I assume, based on the rest of this report, this isn't just the standard Silicon Valley don't be evil boilerplate.
No, it's not the vague philosophical AI ethics panels we saw back in 2023. This is about the hard ethics of corporate deployment and individual liability.
Okay.
Is it ethically sound for a company to put a junior employee in a position where they are legally or professionally liable for an AI agent's mistake when that employee lacks the tacit knowledge to actually catch the mistake?
That's a huge operational point. If I'm a first-year associate at a law firm and my partner forces me to use this enterprise AI tool to hit my billable hours,
right? And the tool lies. And I submit it, and I get disbarred, who is actually at fault? Me, the partner, or the tech vendor?
that is the liability crisis in a nutshell. Kategos argues that companies need crystal clear ethical frameworks that protect the human verifier. You cannot ethically hold a human responsible for the output of a black box they are not allowed to understand or adequately trained to audit.
The Kategos framework really tries to wrap its arms around the whole chaos of this transition. They are positioning themselves not just as a vendor of macro intelligence, but as the actual safety infrastructure for the intelligence age.
Which is a brilliant strategic place to be when everyone else is just selling raw gasoline. They're selling the fire extinguishers.
So let's pivot to actual strategy. Let's get down to brass tacks. I'm convincing myself here as we talk. I'm appropriately scared, but I'm convinced.
Yeah.
The calculator analogy is completely dead to me. I realize I'm sitting on top of a massive competence trap. What do I do on Monday morning? I'm the CEO. I have a board meeting on Tuesday. What is my first move? The very first thing you do is structurally kill the assumption of mastery inside your HR and management team.
How do I do that?
You stop treating polished output as a proxy for actual skill in your hiring and promotion pipelines.
Oh, man, that's tough. We've always done that. Show me your design portfolio. Show me your GitHub code samples. Here's a take-home writing test for the marketing role.
All of those traditional samples are now completely meaningless. A bright 12-year-old with a decent prompt guide can produce a digital portfolio over the weekend that looks exactly like a senior UX designer's work from 2020.
That's true.
You need to immediately shift to testing process and verification capabilities, not generation.
So what does a job interview actually look like in 2026?
Don't ask a candidate to write a strategy document from scratch. Bring them into the room, give them a deeply flawed AI-generated strategy document, one that sounds rhetorically perfect but has massive, subtle, logical holes in the business premise.
Oh, I love that.
And ask them to tear it apart in real time. Give them a red pen.
Test for the ability to find the lie.
Exactly. Test them on the epistemic crisis. Can they spot the hallucination? Can they identify the specific paragraph where the logic is structurally sound, but the underlying premise is weak for your specific market?
That's brilliant.
That is the ultimate skill of the future. You don't want to hire builders anymore. You want to hire building inspectors.
And what about my current workforce? The thousands of people who are already deeply relying on these tools every single day. I can't just fire them all and rehire a bunch of inspectors.
No, you need to implement strict high-stakes verification protocols. You need to explicitly, at a policy level, distinguish between low-risk generation and high-risk execution.
Define the difference.
Low-risk generation is drafting an internal team update email or brainstorming 10 name ideas for a new internal project. Let the AI run wild.
Sure.
High-risk execution is filing a legal brief, deploying code to the production server, or approving a public earnings statement.
And for the high-risk stuff.
For the high-risk stuff, you absolutely cannot accept AI verified as the final step in the chain. You need a designated human in the loop who has the actual hard-earned seniority to push back on the machine.
Right.
And this brings us right back to the seniority vacuum. If you want senior people 10 years from now, you have to artificially manufacture struggle for your juniors today.
Manufacture struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that sounds like corporate hazing. You mean I have to force them to do it the hard, slow way, even if the easy AI way is right there on their desktop?
Yes, exactly like how we train commercial airline pilots. Think about a pilot in a flight simulator dealing with a catastrophic dual-engine failure.
Okay.
Modern planes practically fly themselves from takeoff to landing, right? But we still force pilots to spend hundreds of hours learning how to land manually in a massive crosswind with no instruments. Why?
Because when the system fails, you need them to step up.
Because when the autopilot inevitably fails, you desperately need a pilot in that seat, not just another passenger.
So I might actually need to ban AI usage for certain types of onboarding and training tasks. I have to say, you cannot use the enterprise tool until you physically prove to me you can model this financial scenario without the tool.
It will be incredibly unpopular. Your junior staff will complain. They will tell HR you were being inefficient. They'll say, you are a dinosaur holding back innovation.
They'll say, why are you making me dig this massive ditch with a hand shovel when we have a brand new autonomous excavator sitting right there?
And you look them in the eye and tell them, because one day that autonomous excavator is going to break down, or worse, it's going to start digging in the exact wrong place, and you need to know what the dirt actually feels like so you can stop it. It is entirely about building that cognitive callus.
That's a tough conversation, but a necessary one. And what about the technology stack itself? Kategos mentions their platform provides real-time data synthesis and predictive modeling. If I'm buying into their agentic research ecosystem, am I just buying a slightly safer, more expensive calculator?
No, you are buying a strategic partner. But you have to strictly treat it like a partner, not an infallible oracle. The report mentions that by 2026, Kategos.AI is providing automated oversight as a core feature.
How does that look in practice?
It means the system itself is structurally designed to flag its own statistical uncertainty.
So instead of just confidently giving the answer 4, it says, I'm 80% sure it's 4 based on these weights, but here are the 3 major risks if I'm wrong.
Correct. It exposes the underlying probability to the human user. It explicitly fights the epistemic opacity we talked about. It makes the invisible math visible. Your IT strategy should be to strictly invest in tools that readily confess their own limitations.
Tools that confess their limitations. That is a radical shift from the massive sales pitch of 2023, which was basically AI can do anything flawlessly.
The AI can do anything era was the peak of the hype cycle. That was purely 2023 and 2024 marketing. The AI has deep structural limits, and we need human experts to manage them era. That is the sober reality of 2026.
It really feels like we are finally growing up as an industry.
We are waking up. We were in this collective fever dream where we actually thought we had solved general intelligence. Now we are waking up to the hard reality that we just built a really, really convincing mimic.
I want to go back to the image of the vortex on the cover one last time. The report describes it as epistemic confusion. After everything we've discussed, it really feels like we're standing right on the edge of that vortex looking down.
We aren't on the edge. We are already inside it.
You think so?
Absolutely. The sheer speed of information generation, the absolute flood of synthetic content hitting the enterprise every hour, it's already overwhelming human cognition. The challenge for the C-suite today is not to figure out how to avoid getting sucked down the drain. It's to build a sturdy raft while you're already in the water.
And the raft is what? Human judgment.
The raft is relentless human judgment, fortified by a rigorous, unsentimental understanding of what the machine actually is. Not a calculator, not a magic 8-ball, but a probabilistic engine of plausibility.
A probabilistic engine of plausibility. If there is one phrase to literally tattoo on your arm from this entire deep dive, that is the one.
Just don't verify the spelling of the tattoo with an AI, though. It might spell it wrong with extreme confidence.
Fair point. It might give you a statistically likely spelling from Reddit that isn't quite right in the dictionary.
Plausibility with 3 A's.
Exactly. I'd be stuck with it forever.
You know, there's one final layer to this report that I think we haven't touched on quite enough, and we need to before we wrap. The agentic future. We glossed over it earlier, but it is the true endgame of all this.
Tell me more. Let's peel back the onion on that. What actually happens when the agents get completely off the leash?
When Kategos talks about an agentic research ecosystem, they are describing a near-future world where the AI takes true initiative without a human prompt. In the calculator days, nothing happened until you physically pressed a button.
Right. It waited for me.
In the agentic era, the AI might be continuously monitoring your global supply chain in the background, and it autonomously decides to reroute a massive cargo shipment from a port in Asia to a port in Europe because it predicts a high probability of a weather event or a labor strike.
Which, again, to a logistics CEO sounds absolutely amazing. That sounds like ultimate efficiency.
It is amazing, but it removes the human from the operational decision loop entirely. It moves us rapidly from human in the loop to human on the loop, or frankly, human out of the loop.
And if the human is out of the loop, and the AI is operating purely on statistical probability, not grounded truth.
Then you have a critical supply chain that is optimized for plausible weather patterns, not actual real-time reality. And when the black swan event hits...
The thing that wasn't in the training data.
Exactly. The geopolitical event or the pandemic that has a 0.0001% historical probability, but a 100% catastrophic impact, the agent fails. And it fails catastrophically because there was no senior human intuition there to look at the dashboard and say, wait a minute, that looks really weird. Let's hold off on rerouting those ships.
So the illusion of mastery we've been talking about, it isn't just about an individual junior employee faking competence with a chatbot. It's about the entire multinational organization faking systemic stability.
Yes, that is the macro threat. We are building incredibly fragile systems, highly optimized, ruthlessly efficient, perfectly polished, crystalline systems, but deeply, structurally fragile. One unexpected crack in the premise and the whole crystal shatters.
So the ultimate mandate for the executive listening today is resilience.
Resilience through intense verification, resilience through mandatory education and struggle, and resilience through flat-out refusing to believe the calculator lie anymore.
This has been incredibly sobering, but absolutely necessary. I think we've successfully popped the bubble of the post-hype complacency today.
That was definitely the goal. If you're a leader and you're not at least a little bit scared by this Kategos report, you really aren't paying close enough attention to your own operations.
Before we wrap up entirely, I want to quickly recap the journey we just took because we covered a massive amount of conceptual ground today.
Sounds good.
We started with the calculator fallacy, that incredibly dangerous, comforting idea that AI democratizes accuracy when we now know it actually just democratizes plausibility.
Right.
We look at the epistemic crisis, the total opacity of where these very confident answers are actually coming from in the black box. We explored the seniority vacuum, which is the terrifying prospect of a hollowed-out generation of talent that has never struggled enough to actually learn their industry.
The lost generation of tacit knowledge.
Exactly. And we landed on the strategic solution, the hard pivot from a mode of production to a mode of verification, supported by rigorous frameworks like the Kategos 4 E's, education, engineering, enforcement, and ethics.
That is a very comprehensive summary. But I'll say don't let this summary replace reading the full text.
Absolutely not. This report from the Kategos Intelligence Unit, the Strategic Macro Outlook, dated December 2025, it is a massive wake-up call for the enterprise. It's a gift, really. It gives us the precise vocabulary we need to fight the nonsense.
It gives us the 4 E's to fight the vortex.
Ah, nice callback to the cover art.
I try. We have to keep the metaphors alive.
I want to leave our listeners with one final provocative thought.
Yeah.
We've talked a ton about the technology today, the logic gates, the probabilities, the agents. But at the end of the day, this is really a story about people.
It always is. Tech is just an amplifier for human choices.
The visionary perspective you brought today leaves us with a pretty chilling realization. We built these incredible machines to save us from the heavy burden of thinking.
Right.
We desperately wanted to skip the boring stuff. We wanted to skip the pain and the struggle of production. But it turns out, to use these tools safely, to use them without accidentally destroying our own businesses from the inside out, we actually have to think harder and deeper than ever before.
It is the ultimate paradox of automation. It makes human contribution less frequent in terms of volume, but exponentially more critical in terms of impact.
And as the resident skeptic today, I'll add this thought. The danger isn't that the AI will rise up and destroy us in some sci-fi war.
No.
The danger is that we will happily, willingly hand over the keys to the company because the AI sounds so incredibly polished and convincing, and we will simply forget how to drive the car ourselves.
And when the paved road eventually runs out, as it always does in business, we literally won't know how to hit the brakes.
So here is the final question for you listening right now, perhaps looking at your departmental org chart. In your organization today, are you promoting people who are actually deep, resilient domain experts? Are you promoting the leaders who truly understand the messy, complex, unautomatable reality of your business? Or are you just promoting the people who are really, really good at using the probability engine to sound smart?
Access is not expertise.
Access is not expertise. Powerful words to end on. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll see you in the next one.
So as we've seen, the defining professional skill of the next decade isn't the ability to prompt an AI, but the epistemic ability to judge it. True expertise is earned through struggle and experience. It is a reservoir of tacit knowledge that no algorithm can replicate. If your organization is ready to move beyond the AI hype and into scalable, measurable adoption, our team can help you lead the way. We encourage you to reach out for a half-hour AI strategy and consultation session. This is your opportunity to define your roadmap, identify high-impact wins, and ensure your AI strategy is built for long-term ROI. Visit Kategos.AI today or click the link in the description to schedule your session and reclaim your strategic edge. Thanks for listening, and keep your epistemic vigilance high.